if you're going to be thinking, well, I need to be posting more, or there's pressure to post more, or you decided actually I think I can get some benefits from posting more, step back before you start. Think about why you want to do it, or what you want to get out of it, and that will inform everything. So is this just simply about dissemination? So when it comes to reporting back any metrics to the funders to say, oh, we shared the results of this study across social media and I reached X amount of people? Is it as simple as dissemination? Is it about getting peer support? Is it about building up networks and finding out actually there's a whole world out there online that can help me and give me some advice? Is it about collaborating? Is it about looking for future projects? So think about the objectives, and then that will inform your content. Don't just jump straight on and think, right, I need to be posting. Why do you need to be posting? Establish that reason, and then create a bit of a plan. I say a plan, I'm not talking about, a detailed, clever plan. I'm thinking about, well, say if dissemination is the aim of the game, then think about how you can reach the maximum amount of people. So if your field is diabetes, for example, and you've got some interesting information that you want to search that will be relevant to nurses, for example, look at maybe, so you've got, look at the calendar, look what's going on in that community. So you have a scientific meeting in March, the Diabetes UK conference. There are some nurses there, but there's a lot of clinical academics as well, and some nurses are academics as well. But you're going to get a lot of nurses at the Diabetes Professional Care Conference in the autumn. And to find out what that hashtag is and plan a series of social media messages to use that conference hashtag. So it doesn't matter if you're not at the conference, but you're sending a series of messages trying to engage with people that are going to that conference and at that conference that are looking at the conference hashtag, and tell them about your work that could be useful and interesting to them. So now we're going to look at making sure you post the right content on the right platform. So the way I see Twitter is it's really good at news and professional interests. That's how I would sum up Twitter. I say Twitter. I still can't bring myself to say X. Since Elon Musk bought it and renamed it, I still prefer Twitter. So as long as everybody's comfortable with me saying Twitter, not X. I can't do it. I can't say X. It doesn't sound daft. Sorry. Anyway, Twitter is about professional interests and news. A lot of breaking news journalists will be posting on Twitter, and they'll go there first before they're posting their stories on their own news websites, their own corporate websites, because it's so quick and easy. And then there's this professional community that's built up in Twitter, like no other network, where they're sharing news and information about their professional interest, about their profession, and you can make sure, we'll talk about some tips later in terms of making sure you're accessing the right networks. Now, so we've used this platform called Sprout Social, and this is looking at when is the best time to post. Now, under the field of hospitals and healthcare. Now, I appreciate that's not going to be relevant for everybody, but this is just an example as to. So we're looking at health research generally, and we've picked this topic, which so Sprout Social will allow you to pick certain industries, and it will tell you when is it best to post. So here, overall, so the times on the left, 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. on a Tuesday and a Thursday. That's not related to hospitals and healthcare. That's generally, that's what Sprout Social is saying is the best time to post generally on social media. 9 to 3 on Tuesday to Thursday, and Mondays to Saturdays 10 till 12 p.m. In terms of the hospitals and healthcare, what it's saying is the best times to post: 11 o'clock on a Monday, Wednesdays from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. and then 2 p.m. It's very specific, and Thursdays from 10 a.m. to noon. They're the best times to post for on Twitter for hospitals and healthcare. The best days, Wednesdays and Thursdays. The worst days, don't touch Sundays, according to Sprout Social. The content, yeah, you've got 280 characters, so it's making sure you're concise and you've got engaging content, you've got relevant links, etc. But in terms of the kinds of, again, thinking about what your objective is, but a few ideas about what kinds of opportunities what kinds of content you can be talking about. Twitter has a scheduling function, which is very handy, especially if we talk about you wanting to share some of your work at a conference using a conference hashtag, but you're on holiday during that week. That's not a problem. You can schedule content the week before you go by simply, if you see the arrow, it gives you the ability to schedule. Just be mindful though, if you're scheduling, just to keep an eye on if you're talking about any specific talks that are due to take place, make sure they actually did, because you don't want to look silly saying, oh, that was a great talk by so and so, and if you weren't there and it didn't happen, it's not going to look good. LinkedIn. So I would summarize LinkedIn as more formal than Twitter. It's the business network and professional network. It's not as engaging and not as you won't get as much engagement on Twitter as LinkedIn, generally speaking. But LinkedIn is most Camlish Cunty, the ARC East Midlands director. He's not on LinkedIn, but he is on Twitter, and he's very good at Twitter. So you will get good people on LinkedIn. You'll get lots of people in your industry on LinkedIn. So I would say LinkedIn and Twitter, for me, generally speaking, are the best, most useful and relevant, suitable platforms for researchers. Going back to our Sprout Social research, as you can see, those times on the left, they're the general best times to post on LinkedIn according to Sprout Social. And if you're looking for hospitals and healthcare, you're looking at, don't worry, for the slides we're going to send you, we're going to include the best times for hospital and healthcare on them, but you're looking at weekdays between 9 a.m. and 5 p.m, especially Wednesdays from 10 a.m. to noon, and Thursdays from 2 to 4. Don't do weekends on LinkedIn. Some ideas about what kinds of content that you can do. LinkedIn gives you another function really that other platforms don't, which is to do blog posts. So you can write a longer piece. You can say, if you were to go to a conference, for example, and you wanted to summarize what you'd learned, you could write a 400, 500, 600, 700, 1,000 word piece if you wanted. You have the ability to do that on other platforms.
So here's just some examples of someone who I think uses LinkedIn really well to gather engagement. So this is Leonard Lee. He's an oncology consultant, government clinical advisor, professor, and a researcher. He seems to share a lot on LinkedIn. So as you can see on the left, that's an example of a really long post that he's done. They work on LinkedIn. He's used emojis, tagged people to speak about a specific event, like we said, timing again. He shared pictures, and he even shares videos as well to kind of capture attention. He doesn't just share things about himself, as you can see there. He shared work about his colleagues and what they've achieved as well. And then some more work that Leonard shares. So things like achievements, personal achievements, professional achievements are great to share on LinkedIn. And so like when Leonard featured on an oncology podcast, he shared the actual post and tagged the relevant people in. That was a longer post as well that worked really well. And actually he uses, like Ollie just spoke about, the blogging feature. So he's really passionate about the cancer vaccine, all the news surrounding that at the moment, and he actually does a monthly blog on it. kind of like a newsletter. So he's got all the blogs in one place on LinkedIn. And as you can see, he shares that monthly as well.
Thank you, Neve. LinkedIn gives you the ability to schedule. As you can see, it's really quick and easy. LinkedIn also gives you, and with other platforms, they give you the ability to have analytics. So you can find out generally how your content has performed over a set period. This is, I think, really handy. If you're saying, look, I'm going to make a concerted effort over the autumn conference system to be more engaging and more active on social media. I've got a few objectives. I want to be collaborating more with industry peers. I want to be, there's a few studies I want to be sharing. There's a bit of self-promotion, there's personal branding. So it can show you your performance by month, so you can see what works and what doesn't. So you might have spent a lot, I keep talking a lot about conferences, but you might have put a lot of effort into a conference and it might not have had the same traction as a blog post the following month. So that would suggest focus, maybe do some tweets for a posts for a conference, but don't spend the same amount of time and effort. Maybe start doing a monthly blog, because the first blog post got some really good engagement. So the analytics for me aren't just about giving you the data to show how far your research has been shared. I think there also should be used as an ability to test what works with yourself to try and improve your engagement performance. So Facebook, we're including Facebook on here because, yeah, okay, there are a few networks, but they're not as active as from our experience as LinkedIn and Twitter. Facebook is, for me, family, friends, pictures, etc. But this is why we've included Facebook. Facebook advertising can be really, really successful. If you've got ethics approval and you're struggling with recruitment, Facebook can be used. Facebook advertising can be used to help recruit, as long as obviously you've got ethics approval, to help recruit participants into your research study. I'll give you an example of how I've used Facebook over the years with Arc East Midlands. There was a study that looked at the positive impact of exercise for people over 60s to reduce their risk of falls, and there was a resource that was provided, and as part of the outcomes of the study, and we part of the job was to share that as far as wide as that we can. So I should go on. Facebook advertising obviously costs a bit of money, but it doesn't need to cost much. It's rather than conventional advertising where you're spending £1,000 for a BMJ advert or an advert in Nursing Standard or whatever it may be. Once you spend that money, and if it doesn't work, that's it. With Facebook advertising, you can pick. Usually, there's a little bit of a limit, but it's not much. It's usually you can spend £50. You can spend £50. You can spend £2,000. You can spend what your budget allows. If you look on the right-hand side of this slide, you will see there was £200 spent on this campaign, and it reached 130,000 people. But more importantly, there was 1,894 clicks. So that works out at cost per click of 11p. That's pretty impressive. What you need to do with Facebook advertising is you do need to stereotype, I'm afraid. You need to be thinking about generally who are your audience, what do they like, what do they do. It's a lot easier than it sounds and looks for those of you that are thinking it's complicated. It's not as hard as you think. If you're looking to promote your study, to promote recruitment of study, subject to ethics, subject to making sure that your university social media policy is adhered to, and you have got the right permissions, you can set up a Facebook page for your study, and you can do a post, and then this is the easy way to do Facebook advertising. You can buy the post. You can, once it's published, you can click boost post, and here you get the ability to say, I want to be targeting this kind of people. Going back to my example with the falls reduction work, our remit was quite straightforward and easy. It was people above the age of 60, I think, in Nottinghamshire. So you can say, you can do it by postcode, but I want to be targeting these people, this age group, sorry, in this geographical area. And the advert needs to be engaging, needs to have a picture, needs to have a call to action. It gives you the ability to add a button where you can you can direct people to a page where people can sign up for the study, or you can direct people to a page where they sign up for more information, or etc. So yeah, I definitely consider Facebook advertising if you have got you've got the need to reach a lot of people, and you've got a real, like, as I say, recruitment is perfect, because I wouldn't advocate trying to do Facebook without any budget. So if you're thinking, oh, that's great, I'll use Facebook, I haven't got £200 or £100 in the budget, or £500, whatever it may be, I wouldn't advocate using Facebook without the money, because our personal accounts, because when you're doing Facebook advertising, you have to set up a page as opposed to a profile. So it becomes a level above an individual profile. So it's an organization page, a company page, etc. Facebook wants our content, all social media platforms wants our personal content to go viral and be shared. They want that to happen. When it comes to setting up a organizational page, a page as opposed to a profile on Facebook, it doesn't want your content to be shared. It wants you to spend money, but it doesn't want you to spend much, if that makes sense. Going on to our Sprout Social timings slide, it's saying overall 9 and 2 on Wednesday, 9 a.m. and 2 p.m. are the best times in the UK to post. Most days engagement drops from 2 p.m. apparently. Apparently the biggest growing demographic on Facebook is 50 plus. With our healthcare and hospitals example, weekdays solid engagement around 9 a.m. Peak posting times on Facebook for hospitals are Tuesday, Wednesdays, Thursdays at 5 p.m. That's hospitals and healthcare. Instagram, I'm going to hand over to my colleague to discuss Instagram.
Perfect, thank you. So as you can see here, if you did want to post organic on Facebook and Instagram, it's through the same platform. And then you can also view analytics through Meta as well. Like Ollie said earlier,
so Meta is the company that own. For those that you don't know, I'm sure you do, but just for those that don't know, Meta is the company that now own Facebook and Instagram.
Yeah. And then you can view your analytics here. So like Ollie said earlier with LinkedIn, seeing what posts of yours work well, what doesn't, where you want to kind of focus and spend most of your time. So then we'll just quickly move on to Instagram. We will be sending these slides out afterwards, so if we brush over any slides, you will have them to refer back to. But basically, researchers could use it for increasing the visibility of your research, any visual content that you manage to get to shout about your research, lives or pictures, videos on your stories. If you are at events, it's really good for that as well. And then moving on to timing here. So overall, for everything, weekdays from 10 a.m. to 12 p.m, Saturday 9 a.m. to 12, Sunday 10 a.m. to 12. But then for hospitals and healthcare, the best times are typically between 9 and 5. And then, as you can see here, in the weekdays, kind of middle of the day.
So Niamh, with Sprout Social, what options, what categories does it give you?
Loads of different ones. It tends to be kind of sections to like education, hospitals and healthcare.
So in terms of healthcare, is it locked in with Trust Hospitals as a group, or do you think there's any other opportunities to delve into that category?
Probably you could probably have a search round on Sprout Social and see what you can find.
And Sprout Social's easy to access, and it's free to create.
Yeah, it's just a website.
Yeah.
So then you can go through their search, or even if you just search in Google, best times to post on Instagram, Sprout Social, those pages will come up and you can flick through and see all the different categories.
But you have to create, if you want to go in and search for yourself, you have to create an account, but it's all free. Is that correct?
Yes, I'm pretty sure it is. So then quickly moving on to YouTube. So YouTube is video content, mainly long form. There is short form as well, such as YouTube Shorts. But as we said on Tuesday, it could be really good for kind of speaking through your research behind the scenes, if you go to any events, conferences and such, interviews. But what's really great about YouTube is that is somewhere where you can host your videos and then link back to those videos in other content. If you're sharing an ad on Facebook and you wanted people to go and watch a video, link it on Facebook. LinkedIn, if you want people to watch that video, put that link on your LinkedIn post and people will go back. And then Sprout Social didn't have much on YouTube at all. So this is just general on Buffett. If you did want the organic engagement through YouTube, as you can see there, the best time to post is 3 to 4 on a Friday, but any weekdays from 2 till 4 p.m. and weekends 9 a.m. to 11. So weekends morning, weekdays more in the afternoon. So a little bit more in detail about the kind of content you could be posting on YouTube to give you some ideas as well. And even things like this webinar that's going to be recorded could then go onto YouTube, and then you can link that if you wanted to share a webinar that
I think we're doing that anyway.
that you've been presenting, if you've been working on your research and you're presenting it in a webinar and then you wanted to share that on LinkedIn, it will be uploaded to YouTube and then you just share it through the link.
And the great thing as well, I think, is that with YouTube, be obvious and clear with what you title and what you tag what you describe your videos as. But yeah, as Neve says, you're creating something, you're posting something on YouTube, which allows you to grab a link and put it on Twitter or LinkedIn, for example. But also that content then is living on your YouTube channel that you create, which means that other people can access it on YouTube.
Yeah, so a top tip if you do want that organic engagement from YouTube searching is to definitely use keywords, research. If your research was into diabetes, insulin, put in diabetes, insulin in the title of your video, in the description as well. And YouTube also allows you to create timestamps throughout the video if people want to skip to certain content as well.
And that's quite easy to do. It's not as complicated as it sounds.
It does sound really complicated, but YouTube will talk you through it. So when you upload your video and go through that process, YouTube has those steps and talks you through it and gives you more information. If it's your first time doing it, kind of following the steps that YouTube show you, it's really easy. And then you can schedule for YouTube as well if you wanted to do that. That's just at the end of the process. You can see you would just click the schedule section, that will bring it down, and you can pick specific days, time. So if say you were doing research on diabetes, insulin, and you wanted to share your research in Insulin Safety Week, you could schedule it to go up, at the start, middle, end of Insulin Safety Week, use that hashtag and then share it onwards that way. So now we're going to talk about TikTok, which is another video platform, a lot newer as well, a lot of a younger audience, but it's a lot more short form videos. It is mostly used for fun, but academics and researchers can really fill this important gap in the typical kind of TikTok content by offering educational or evidence-informed driven material as well. And then something good about TikTok is once you put something out there, you can download it, save it, or share it as links, and you can use those videos on other platforms as well.
So you can create a TikTok account, but just use it to create videos, yeah?
Yeah. And it could be all like your content can range from behind the scenes or from you working on your research to more educational videos. So, if you were explaining how insulin works, you can do that really quickly in a short little video on TikTok using videos, images, and you can explain it as well. So we're just going to show you some examples of TikToks here. So this is one person more growing the personal brand, this video here. They captioned it like this, and they used all the relevant hashtags so that people could find them. And if you look at these stats of how many views, likes, comments, saves, and everything they've got, they've done really well. That's great and really positive, if you can see there. And then they can share content like that on LinkedIn. Again, like we said at the beginning, the objective there was more personal brand. And then this example here is more educational, where they're using a topic. So this video is about Ozempic. It was literally just captioned Ozempic, which blew up quite a while ago, people saying, you know, using it for weight loss. And they took the topic and they, in this video, actually share research to help explain it a bit better.
He's using a bit of humour as well.
If you're thinking about taking Ozempic for short-term weight loss, as a surgeon who's been involved with weight loss surgeries, let me tell you the truth. Research shows that most people who stop Ozempic will regain most of their original weight. This study of almost 2,000 adults showed that patients who stopped Ozempic regained 2/3 of the lost weight within a year. The question then becomes, do you actually need to chase weight loss at all costs or at the cost of taking medications for life? And the answer to that might be yes if the alternative is life-threatening chronic metabolic diseases. For the
So as you can see, that's a bit of a longer video, so I've just paused it there. But that's more educational, and he uses the green screen so that he can show
What's the green
images.
screen?
It's like so you can upload pictures as he did there, and then place yourself in front of it and explain what's going on in the picture. So as you can see there, pointing towards
on the
that
TV.
study. Yeah.
Sorry.
Like on the TV.
Neve's the TikTok expert, not me, as you can clearly see. I'm not pretending to be either.
But yeah, so here Adobe did some research and claimed that over 64% of Gen Z Americans use TikTok as a search engine, with nearly 1 in 10 stating they were more likely to rely on TikTok than Google as a search engine. So that's where research, with videos like that, can fill that gap to make sure, you know, there's no misinformation spreading or anything like that. And you can explain subjects so easily using images, videos, and then be sharing them.
I guess if your objective is to grow your own personal brand, this guy did it really well, didn't he? He got a lot of extra followers.
Yeah, he's got so many followers, that guy, and he does a lot of those kind of educational.
And he's positioned himself as an expert in his field.
Yeah, absolutely. And then LinkedIn did some research as well to say short form content will dominate social media.
So when you say short form, you mean short videos?
Yeah, so shorter, whereas YouTube, you can upload videos that's like an hour long. Whereas TikTok, it focuses more on 30 seconds, 1 minute, 2-minute videos. And then
Facebook calls those shorts, correct?
Yeah. And Instagram, I think, calls them shorts as well. And so then just because you've created them on TikTok doesn't mean you can't then share them on LinkedIn and things like that, because they're still going to be just as powerful as short form content on other platforms. And then here, if you look at the timings for TikTok as well, that was found on Sprout Social. So the generic Tuesday and Friday, 4 p.m. till 6 p.m, Wednesday and Thursday mornings, and then Thursday evenings. But for healthcare and hospitals, so the average to above average engagement Monday through to Thursday from about 10 till as late as 6, but the best times are Mondays 5 till 8, Thursdays at 4, Wednesdays from 2 till 5 p.m, and Thursdays at 2 p.m. So that's for hospitals and healthcare. And then also with TikTok, if you use it on your desktop, you can schedule them if you want to. It is simple. It talks you through it. That was if you chose to. And then also you can use analytics through TikTok as well. So if you wanted to try different kinds of short form videos, educational one day, maybe behind the scenes another day, one you just talking through your research, and then another your research journey, you can use the analytics. So even if people came from LinkedIn and clicked on that link to view your TikTok, that would still count as a view. So you can still see the analytics of how many people are viewing particular videos and what.
I think there's a choice here. I think it's what kind of social media contributor or content producer you want to be. Do you want to be contributing with Twitter and LinkedIn, sharing what you're doing, do what's already been done, then great. I think if you want to go to the next level, and I'm not saying potentially do what that chap did and get all that reach, etc. But you can go to the next level and look at look at TikTok as an app and think, what can I think it's quite exciting. How can I use this to fit my objective? Because this content is what takes you to the next level, isn't it? This turbocharges your content rather than being we've got a great stat in the previous example, in the previous slides we did on Tuesday. Pictures increase your engagement on a post by 125%. Correct?
Yeah, 120%, and then increases clicks by about 300.
Yeah, so pictures are great. But what we're saying is you've got the opportunity now to go to the next level. And I think that's quite exciting.
So now you've had a look at some of the platforms, we're just going to move on to tools and planning. So when we talk about planning, that's planning in advance of posting your content. So firstly, defining your objectives. As Ollie said, once you've got your objective, then plan ahead to when you're going to create and share these posts that fit in with that objective. And then once you kind of know what you want to be sharing, you can put together sort of a content calendar so that you plan ahead what's going to be going out when. So that will help you create a consistent stream of social media posts, which is vital to kind of keeping your audience engaged. And the less you post, the less you're likely going to be showing up on algorithms. Whereas if you're consistent, you're more likely to be showing up on those algorithms. And then here, like we've said, national days, weeks, events, plan ahead for like events, like you said, ADA, things like that.
Sorry, I'm still talking about TikToks. That's doing TikToks that are relevant. That's a way to kind of hack into the algorithm, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely.
That's going to be a better way to hack into it than doing normal conventional posts with pictures. Fair?
Yeah, definitely. So then choosing national days, weeks, events, planning ahead of time. So if there is I think there's a National Research Day. So if that's coming up in a month, you can plan ahead and know what you want to be sharing. Then even if you don't plan out your content word for word, at least you know that you'll be wanting to share something around then.
Yeah, and think about going back to those, Alzheimer's Day or whatever it may be. It might be if part of your objective is to raise awareness of a particular part of healthcare or a particular part of a disease area, and there's a real public interest there, it might be that you use an awareness day and target a KOL, a key opinion leader that might have a big visibility in that sector, that area, and see if you can get them to share. The power of celebrity, see if you can get them to share your message if they're a keen ambassador for what you're promoting.
Yeah, definitely. And also planning ahead of time if you did need approval through your organisation, that helps. That leaves plenty of time to make approval, revisions, and so on. Here's some tools that you can use for scheduling in advance and creating a content calendar in advance. As we say, you'll get these slides after if you want to go.
Canva's incredible.
Yeah.
It gives you graphic design. So obviously, if you're working for a university, you have to make sure what you're able to do in terms of branding, because the university has its strict brand guidelines. But in terms of Canva so you have to be careful about brand guidelines, is what I'm saying. But Canva it's easy drop and drag graphic design. It's like, for those of you that remember the old Publisher, before your time, but it was easy to use. It's similar to how you create slides in PowerPoint, drag and drop. Canva gives you the ability to create design, to create really nice design based on templates and drag and drop. So you can create graphic design yourself. So an example is, say you were looking to promote the fact that you've reached 500 as a milestone, 500 recruitment onto your trial. So you could create a nice graphic that had a 500 in it with a birthday candle as if to celebrate. That doesn't really work, does it? But
confetti.
Confetti. Again, just be mindful of whoever your employer is. The corporate brand guidelines there.
Yeah, so Canva's great, and then also not just design, you can schedule on there. So this list here, most of these are multi-platform, so you can schedule and post to LinkedIn, Facebook, places like that. It will allow you to choose the date, time. Some of them you can't tag people on, so it's kind of playing around, see what works best for you and what kind of content you would want to be sharing. They are also, as you can see in the list, some of them allow you to gather analytics as well. And some actually have this really great kind of AI tool as well, where if you put in kind of what you want to post about, what you would want to say in your post, it can suggest 2 or 3 extra posts for you as well, if you just needed help with that. So one really great resource that we like to use is Bitly or TinyURL. Bitly, you now have to pay to create more links, but this is basically you put in the link to, say, a website with a news story about your research on it. So you put your link into there and it creates a tiny little link for you. On TinyURL, you could personalize it as well, to say the words that you would want it to say in the actual URL. And then you share that created smaller link on your platforms. You can, any platforms, Twitter, LinkedIn, all of them. And then when people click on there, no matter where they came from, these platforms will gather those analytics for you, to see how many clicks you had, whereabouts they came from, location, other websites. And you can track your analytics through there to see how many
30 posts across 3 platforms. As long as you use the same link, you're going to have an overall number as to how many people have clicked on that link.
So Bitly would create you one that says Bitly/ and then whatever it would say afterwards. TinyURL would be TinyURL/ and then whatever it would say afterwards. But TinyURL is definitely free, and you can create quite a few links using that. And now we're just moving on to some more general advice. So I know we spoke about timings, as in literally the times on the clock, Thursdays at 10 p.m. or whatever, but don't just think about timing that way. Also think, as we've said, about the timings of conferences. So if you're sharing your research, I know we keep going back to it, but about diabetes, think about posting during ADA or the Diabetes UK conference, or an awareness week, insulin safety week, hyper awareness week. Or if you did research into dementia, there's also a dementia awareness week. And then also think about timing your posts. These can be more last minute posts as well, but about a particular topic. So when it's in the news, so for example, that TikTok about Ozempic was shared when there were lots of news stories about celebs using Ozempic, and that he harnessed that newsworthiness and that trending topic of Ozempic to educate people using research.
And promote his personal brand.
Yeah, and promote his personal brand. So here's some examples here. So as you can see, Kamlesh sharing from a conference. Leonard here, he was sharing from a conference using hashtags as well, and Leonard did and tagged the people that were there with them. Newsworthiness. So this professor shared a news article about it on social media, about kind of and linking with her research. And then an awareness week here. And then just some more examples. So kind of the discussion about plant-based meat is quite topical at the moment. So as you can see, Kamlesh here sharing kind of information and tweets around that topic. And if you just look at the reach as well, you can see how many people are viewing these tweets and then park the car. So the timing here, that was when the new government came in and using that to talk about diabetes and also in insulin safety week.
It's a big topical and opportunistic.
Yeah, definitely. So this one,
They're appropriate.
yeah, this one's linking in a news story, as you can see here, the awareness week and hashtags, really using all of the elements together to be strategic about what you're posting. It's now engaging audience. So as we said, actionable posts, kind of encouraging people to engage with your content will boost you up your algorithm as well. So there's some suggestions. Tagging people, encouraging them to interact, share your posts. The more you want people to engage with your content as well, basically, the more you should be engaging with other people's, especially if you want them to see you more. Really engage with those people that you would like to see engaging with you. Connecting with people that you want to that you would like to connect with you as well, or like Ollie said, working together on content, asking them to collaborate with your content, aiming to edutain, so that's educate them whilst entertaining them. So like that TikTok about Ozempic, I know we keep going back to it, but that was a great use of educating people in more of an entertaining way and including visuals. So as Ollie was talking about earlier, tweets with linked photos drive 120% more engagement and receive 350% more clicks. That's according to Search Engine Watch. So a useful resource for finding people that you might want to be engaging with, tagging, approaching for collaboration is Woomio. So on there, that's basically about finding the right kind of influencers in the right areas. So it does tend to stick to Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, people on there. But the likelihood is if these people have accounts on these platforms and are reaching tons of people on these platforms, they're likely going to be, especially on Twitter as well. So it's worth definitely looking at these people, and you can search for people, as you can see on the left-hand side here, kind of the search that you can do, the keywords, so what they're discussing, the hashtags that they'll be using, the mentions, so who they're mentioning in their content, anything they might be including in their bio, the country that they're from, even the city that they're from. So you can really trim down to aim and search for people in a really, really specific area. So hashtags and keywords, I know we've spoke a little bit about this earlier with some examples. But definitely hashtags and keywords are key with algorithm. So if you're being strategic about what you're posting and when, be strategic about using the correct hashtags and keywords to get your posts seen. So in videos such as YouTube, I know we said earlier, using these keywords in the title, description are going to help people see it. Using hashtags for conferences, even if you're not there, you can join in on that conversation online and share what you want to speak about.
But how do you find the conferences, the hashtags? Sorry, you search for them. But also, there's this great app. It used to be a website, but now it's an app called Hashtagify. Don't like the name, but I like the concept. What they do is you can go in and say, my subject is X. What hashtags relate to that subject, and what hashtags are big on that subject? For example, I found hashtag PhD chat, which is a very busy, active, and vibrant, engaged community. I found that via this platform.
And here's some examples. We've shown some of these already, but just using the hashtag of events, weeks, topics that you want to be discussing to help people find you.
Here's a few points to summarize. UK Research and Innovation says social media allows you to follow and contribute to discussions on events, reach new audiences, promote your research, seek and give advice and feedback. To sum it up, our point is, if you're going to do it, try and be strategic and do the best posts you can do by considering what resources that you've got at your fingertips, some tactics, look at the resources, look at what you've got available. To conclude, be consistent. If you're gonna commit to doing social media, there's no point if you're gonna only do one post a month. It's not going to get any traction. Find your audience, know your audience, find out what they want. Choose your timings wisely. Don't post on a Sunday. Search out your hashtags. Have some personality, but be professional. Remember, everybody should be professional all the time on LinkedIn and Twitter, and there isn't any room for borderline content. So your posts remain on the record. Just remember that anything you post, unless you delete it, it's always going to be there. 6 minutes to go. We've got Q&As. Emma, is that okay? Did we do okay?
Yeah, lovely, perfect. Thank you, Ollie and Neve. That was really wonderful. So we've already got 2 questions, and they'll give you people an opportunity to think of some more whilst we discuss these ones. So the first one's from Kaj, who says, do you know if there are any stats on what percentage of users, or specifically UK users, who use TikTok for education as opposed to entertainment?
That's a very good question. The answer is we don't know, but we will come back to you. We'll have a
We'll do a Google.
Yeah, we could do a Google straight away now, but no, seriously, we'll try and find a proper answer for you, Kaj, and come back to you.
Yeah,
thank you.
I think it's probably one of those, it's a newer platform, isn't it? So
yeah.
And academics are quite like the stableness of what we're used to. So
I expect it will be quite high though. I feel like I'm guilty sometimes of, if I want to know something, searching it on TikTok, because it's visual, it helps explain it as well.
So you would search, but you're part of the generation that searches on TikTok rather than Google.
Yeah, probably.
It's quite interesting.
Yeah, I wonder, maybe that can be an academic study in of itself, because I bet a lot of academics will be, I'm just going to Google, or I'm going to Google Scholar. And so, yeah, interesting. So next question is a why, or defining objectives. Often as trial managers, we're given trials in specialisms that we're not experts in. Is there a best way to establish this prior to thinking about any campaigns on which social media to utilise, or any processes that can be used to finding out why? I'm sorry, Luke, I probably said that really badly. You're welcome to come online and tell me I'm rubbish, and ask Ollie and Neve again if you want.
Hi, Emma. I think you've covered it pretty well, to be honest. Yeah, I mean, as trial managers, we get given trials periodically that we're not experts in. We obviously have a doctor or a surgeon or a principal investigator that is an expert in this. However, it would be useful to know, you mentioned finding why, or defining objectives is like the key point at the start. This is, I think, a thing that I really struggle with as a trial manager, because I don't know the best way to establish that. And if there's any way that, like a process or something you could use as a resource, it might help that. Because I appreciate I could go and speak to 15 PPIs, and I could go and speak to 5 surgeons, but it doesn't really get me to a place where I can start thinking about this quickly.
My point is, if you're looking after several trials, do any of them need to be on social media? Is the first question. And if there is a need because it's dissemination, that's your objective. Or you only use social media if you need it, in terms of if you've got multiple trials and you're not an expert in all of them, in any of them, if that's what I'm hearing. So, for example, you're really struggling with recruitment on one of the trials. That's your objective. So then you would go on to social media with a campaign to increase recruitment. So I wouldn't think necessarily. I know we've said it's good to be active and be noisy and share and talk about what you're doing, but in your instance, if you've got multiple trials, I would only look to use social media as and when you need it, rather than by default. It might be that the results of those trials, and if you're able to share those results, then you report those to the communications manager or the press officer at your hospital for those to share, for them to share that data through the corporate accounts. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, cheers, thank you very much.
No problem.
So relatedly from Anna, as someone who's terrified of social media but recognises that it's a good and useful way of promoting research, do you have any tips for starting out?
So my first tip, Anna, would be is take a personal view on it. What are you interested in personally? And have a little look at what's going on. So pick Twitter, for example, set up an account, have a little look about a subject area that you're personally really interested in, read some of the content, see what those contributors that are talking about that subject, see how they're doing it, and then that gets you used to it. And then so that's getting your hands into it and getting used to it. Look at what's really interesting to you. And then in terms of how do you actually make the first step, Anna? How do you do your first post? I would look at what others are doing, I think. So you've got all our tips. Don't just post a slab of text, because it's going to be pointless. It's not going to get any engagement, limited if any, or you might get a friend that would like it. Take our tips and hints, but also look what's going on by people that you may know that are already doing social media, and see how they're doing it, and copy and adapt.
Yeah, definitely. And probably don't put too much pressure or worry too much on making your first post perfect. The more that you create and the more that you post out there and put out there, the more that you'll feel comfortable with it.
Tips for a survey on social media. You can actually, and I don't think this is your question, but I'm going to cover it briefly. You can actually do surveys on social media, on not on every platform, but certainly on LinkedIn and Twitter. You can it's really easy to do. You can do a snapshot survey where you ask 4 questions and you've got a limit. You can say I want it to end in a day or 7 days. So yeah, you can do your own. You can do surveys, but once they finish, that's it, and they're confined to that one post. In terms of you're doing a survey and you want it to be bigger than that one post, and you want it to be part of your research, for example, I'd step back again and think, what are the objectives? Are the objectives that you need to get 1,000 people, for example, to complete this survey? If that's the case, then, and if you have got budget, then I'd consider Facebook advertising. I would also, and if you're standing from if you're coming from a standing start, so you're setting up a Twitter account today and you've got a 0 following, and it's going to be quite hard, and you've got a deadline of 2 weeks, that's going to be quite challenging. So I think about, so are you employed by the University of Nottingham? So if so, you might want to speak to their communications team and find out whether they can help you promote your survey on social media. I would create you'll be using some survey software. I would go to the website that Neve was talking about called Bitly. Then that will give you, and I'd paste the link to your survey into Bitly. That will give you one link that you can share across all your platforms, and it will tell you how many people have clicked on that link. So you give that to the university communications officer. You give that to somebody that you may know, a PI that's got a big social media following. You can ask them to use it, and it goes into your Facebook advertising campaign.
Lovely, thank you. So we've got 2 other questions, and then we're going to run out of time, aren't we? We probably have already, but we'll do 2 quick questions and then we'll say thank you and goodbye. So how do you balance technical language that we use in our research and the need to use simpler language for greater accessibility and enhanced engagement? I would say, from one of the ones within our ARC that does all this stuff, don't use your academic language, write for normal real life people. And Ollie will even say even more than that, because he then edits what I write quite often.
I think I'm going to use a crude term, but I quite like it because it's relevant here. Dumb it down. So to try and use words that are really clear and concise. Try and use 1 sentence rather than 3. Because my point about this is, even if you're talking to high-ranking international clinical academic, or you're talking to somebody newly diagnosed with a long-term condition, those people still are busy and want to be able to read that information really quickly, and they both are going to like clear and concise content.
Yeah, and I think definitely think about where you're posting it as well. You know, if it's Twitter, you do want to use simple, quicker language because you've got less characters as well, and the audience is wider. Whereas on LinkedIn, if you're speaking directly to your audience, you probably know more about what they're going to understand about what you're saying.
I like what Luke's saying. I was going to say ChatGPT. Yeah, use ChatGPT to do a bit of legwork for you, but obviously check it. Yeah, I like that,
Good
Luke.
Good Lord, from an academic perspective, don't. It's AI. It'll plagiarise. But yeah, find a safe way of doing it. And then one last question from Charlotte. She quite often notices different levels of engagement for when she posts more or less frequently. What do you suggest is the optimum time between posts?
I think have a target, Charlotte. Like I would say aim for 3 or 4 a week. Is that fair?
Yeah, I think it depends on what platform as well.
Yeah.
So like Twitter, probably go for more. LinkedIn, if they're very long form content, so lots and lots, probably less.
There's an interesting statistic about I probably shouldn't say this, it's quite depressing, about Twitter, about a tweet. Its shelf life is 12 minutes. So with that in mind, post every hour. Don't. Everybody's too busy
don't spend 12 minutes writing it either.
Everybody's really busy juggling other priorities. We get that. I think be realistic to yourself and aim for I would say 2 to 4 a week.
Yeah.
Post.
I think it just depends on who your audience is, doesn't it? So
yeah, that's another good point. And what your objective is.
And like, for example, if you're posting from a conference and lots of live tweets, you're probably going to be putting out lots within that one day. So it kind of depends on the timing and what you're posting about as well.
Going back to those algorithms, they like active accounts though.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
They try to.
So if you're doing it once every
keep
month,
them
they won't like it.
consistency.
They won't like you.
Lovely. So good, careful balancing act everybody needs then. Use some personal judgment. So thank you to Ollie and Neve for today.